Hey Wonderlanders, let's talk triangles. So you may have heard of the drama triangle or the victim triangle. This is a social model used to describe human interaction and conflict. But in truth, it's really better associated with survival. An individual who feels like they're struggling to survive, so they're stuck in survival mode, is more than likely to exist within this triangle, this drama, or this victim triangle. To understand survival, we actually need to go to another triangle, which is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You may have seen that somewhere. Basically, it starts out with man's basic needs, so his physical needs of food, water, rest, having a house, place to live, and then security. Then it moves on from physiological to psychological needs. So your emotional or psychological needs would be love or belonging, feeling like you belong to a tribe, a family, a group. And then your feelings of accomplishment, so your esteem needs are your place within that group. And only once these 4 rungs are satisfied are we really out of survival. Because these needs, your physical, your safety needs, your love, belonging, your esteem needs, these are critical to human survival. So it's only really when we move out of those 4 rungs, when we've moved above all of those 4 needs, that we can look at operating outside of the victim triangle. However, in this day and age, it's a rare human being that gets to a point of satisfying all of those 4 needs. In my experience, there's one of 2 things that's needed. One comes with age, acquired wisdom of ages, and the second one is faith-based. And it doesn't matter what that faith looks like, but if someone can transcend needs by way of faith, then they can step outside of this triangle. So let's look at, what does this mean to you? What is the triangle in your day-to-day living? Well, the first thing to identify is if you had a parent, or both parents, that lived within the victim triangle. Now, if your parents were addicts, if they lived a chaotic type of existence, then it's likely that you had parents that were in the victim triangle. Now, the victim triangle has 3 corners. The one corner being victim, the next being persecutor, and the last being rescuer. So to a person operating from a victim triangle, everyone in the world, and I mean everyone, will in their terms be classified under one of those three groups. So anyone out there, be a friend, family member, and sometimes from moment to moment the classification can change. A victim-minded person or someone living in the victim triangle will see everyone in the world either as a fellow victim or a persecutor or a potential rescuer or an ongoing rescuer. And they will behave towards people as if people are those things. From the outside of the triangle, interacting with a person who is entrenched in the victim triangle, you would be classified in any moment as either a victim, so they can be playing the role of persecutor, or you would be classified as the persecutor, or you could potentially be a rescuer. The hollowness of this triangle is that anybody outside of the triangle doesn't really have a face beyond what is assigned to them by the triangle. So you might be the nicest person in the world, and you interact with someone who is in the victim triangle, and initially perhaps they see you as a rescuer, and perhaps you do something nice for them, provide some sort of rescue. But in the very next moment, let's say that you've now moved on and you've gone to do your shopping, or you've had to take a phone call, and immediately you're reassigned from rescuer to persecutor. And now suddenly this person has a completely different attitude towards you. Why did you ignore me? Why didn't you stay with me? Etc. So it can feel a little disorienting dealing with somebody who is entrenched in a victim model. Although you remain the same, so you remain constant, and yet this person's attitude towards you shifts dramatically from victim to rescuer to persecutor. So what can we do about victim triangles? Well, the truth is that we can never, ever extract anybody else from their own triangle. By its very nature, the victim triangle demonstrates to us that this person is in survival mode. So if you were out in the bushveld, and here comes the lion, this state of mind, victim, rescuer, persecutor, this dynamic, triangular dynamic, is perfectly functional. Here I am in the middle of the bushveld, lion's on its way, okay. The brain scans around and says, all right, I am potentially the victim in this situation. There is my persecutor, the potential persecutor, the lion. Where is my rescuer? Or is there a rescuer? So on the plains of the Sahara, where life boils down to survival minute to minute, this triangle, this dynamic is perfectly functional. Everyone on that plane is either a victim, a persecutor, or a rescuer. However, life is more complex in terms of human dynamics. And here we are all sitting together, having a chat, group of friends sitting around, and we can tell who in that group is stuck in survival mode. And the way we can tell that is who identifies themselves either as a victim, a persecutor, or a rescuer. Now, that's not to say that none of us, even if we've transcended the victim triangle, don't revisit the triangle at times. Often, the people who taught us the triangular dynamic, our own parents, just with a word or a look, can send us straight back into our triangle. So even when we know that the world is not a blame game, that nobody's coming to get us, and we're not always scanning for potential rescuers, even when we know all of that, and we feel like we've transcended in terms of Maslow's dynamic, there are still railway tracks on our journey that lead us straight back into our triangle. And usually those are triggered either by a person with whom we lived in a triangular relationship for a long time, or it can be triggered by an emotion. Like neurolinguistic programming speaks about how a dynamic can trigger memory that sends us straight back into another emotional state. And so suddenly we're in a situation that we have lived before, even if the components, even if the people involved are completely different. If we head into a dynamic that we've lived before, that was a triangular dynamic, there was a persecutor, there was a potential rescuer, and we were the victim, it is likely that we will bounce straight back into our triangle. So if you've listened to this and you've recognized the pattern, if you've listened to it and said, well, I do spend most of my days feeling like a victim, I do see other people as either fellow victims or as rescuers or as persecutors, there is one simple step that anyone can take to break themselves free of the drama, the victim triangle. And that is this: one clear, conscious decision that you take 100% responsibility for. It sounds simple, but when you do it, when you find the courage to take a step, to make a decision, and embrace the responsibility of that decision, you break free of the triangle. Because in one clear, conscious decision, you are empowered. You are the power in your life. When you're living in the victim triangle, you are disempowered. You have no power. Your power sits with either your persecutor or your rescuer. So if you are prepared to reclaim your power and make one clear, conscious decision that you take responsibility for, you can start to break yourself loose of this victim triangle. To everybody else, if you've outgrown the triangle and you know people who live there, it's a difficult one to approach. People who live in the victim triangle are living life in terms of blame instead of in terms of responsibility. They're living a life based on fear. They're not driven by what they love. The best way to encourage people who are victim-based is to help them outgrow survival mode. Affirm for them the things that are going right in their lives. Congratulate them on how well they handled things. Don't rescue them, even though that might mean that you will become their persecutor in their minds, but try to encourage them to regain their power. And if you find yourself slipping back into a victim triangle, just take a moment and say, hold on, what role am I playing here? Am I a victim, persecutor, rescuer? Whoops, I'm back in the triangle. Step back out of the triangle and know that all of us in our lives are just doing the best we can in this moment with what we have. There's absolutely no need to assign blame, because we've all created our own reality based on the thoughts that we are paying attention to. If we can all step into that in an empowered way, then there would be no need for victim, rescuer, persecutor. The victim triangle is a very sad place to be. It's very stressful. It's like living on the plains of the Sahara, pursued by lions every day. So give those stuck in victim mentality a little bit of leeway. Yeah, they're pretty volatile, but they are stuck in survival. They don't have the assurance that tomorrow is guaranteed, that they will be okay. And so if we can just encourage them, like, oh, you see, you got through that okay. Wow, look at you go. Encouragement is the thing that will help them to build faith in themselves, and feeling like they're confident, feeling like, hey, they've got this. That will help them to reclaim their true power. This is Alice, sending love wherever it's needed.